Really. I just had I just had David Cole on the other day here, and we were talking about CEOs and that there's essentially it's a spectrum. The people that start on the technical side, the geology side, like yourself, and then the people that's
Mhm.
get into the more banking and finance side. And you've got experience in both, so I like hearing that. But then I also like categorizing CEOs in the resource space in another two categories. Ones that are more about get rich quick and not really care about the
Mhm.
shareholders. And then the CEOs that are willing to get other people rich first by developing a project,
Mhm.
making something like you said. So my question to you is there any advice to find people like find the right management? Because I've got burned by this a couple of
Mhm.
times in my investment journey. And you being
Okay.
an analyst, like what did you look for in CEOs to make sure they aren't those type of get rich quick CEOs?
Yeah. So when I when I used to ask those types of questions when I was at the fund, I always there are a couple of different things, and there's no clear cut answer. You'd always have to kind of vector in to the right feeling, I guess, is the only way I can describe it. But you I think most people always talk about skin of the game, right? You want to make sure that people have skin of the game, but that one's one you can get burned on because some people get super dirt cheap penny stock, right? And they have no real ties. So if things don't go well, they can always just walk away, or because there's no real cost base associated with that
Right.
interest that they have. Um, and then you've got those people that want to pump it and dump it, like you were talking about, right? They just want to get the stock from 5 cents to 50 cents, blow it all out, and then they go start the next one. And so there's a couple of ways to vector into these questions. I always started by asking them, what is this company going to look like in 5 years? And that will quickly sort out a lot of the guys that are the pump and dumpers because they have no fucking clue. Oh, pardon my
That's all
French.
right.
I'm not sure if
If you're fine with it, I'm fine with it.
a lot of those guys aren't going to have a clue. They're going
Yeah.
to rattle off some BS about how they're going to add value, and they're going to be able to raise money at higher and higher prices. And as soon as you start hearing that, you know that the jig is up. Like these guys are just interested in getting the stock price high enough and liquid enough that they can exit. And if
Mhm.
you want to play those types of investments, that's totally fine. You just have to know what you're in for, right? And you got to
Yeah.
make sure that you're out before those guys are out, so to speak.
The way you said that, it
Um,
makes so much more sense because I saw that coming in one of my investments, and I'm like, oh, but I've already like lost some money, so I was worried about taking a loss. But then the longer you hold it, the more of a loss you make. And oh, should have just
yep,
got out when
yep,
the red flags were there.
yeah. The other thing I always counsel, or always thing that I would always ask is, how much stock does your wife own?
Oh,
Or your husband, if you're
really?
or your husband if you're dealing with a female CEO, right? Because a lot of the folks in Canada, I'm American, so I'm going to be a bit critical on Canadians here.
Hmm.
Up in Canada, the rules on insider ownership are a bit different than the States, right? In the States, your spouse is a part of your household, and you have to report all of that, right? If your spouse is buying or selling stock in the company that you run, that's an insider transaction. In Canada, it's not necessarily so. And so what you'll see are a lot of these CEOs that set up companies at an early stage and super cheap. They'll get a modest amount of stock for themselves
Yeah.
at super cheap prices, but they'll load their spouse up. And so then once the thing is trading and whatnot, you get all this selling coming, and you ask the CEO if they're selling, and they straight face answer you no. But the next question has to
Wow.
be, is your spouse, right? So there's some tricky things about investing in these resource companies that you've got to come in eyes wide open. You got to ask the right questions, and you should also ask around, right? Ask your friends, ask people that might have done business with there previously, right? Just fact check, and get to know them, because at the end of the day, in a lot of these resource stocks, you're investing in the people,
Hmm.
right?
That's the point of this podcast,
Yeah.
is to understand the people. That was eye-popping for me. I didn't know that was a thing in Canada, and that's really
Oh,
good
and
to
people
know.
will probably give me a rash of
Hey,
heck for saying all this stuff too, probably. But
hey,
hey,
well, the
look,
young listeners
if you're
appreciate
out
it.
to invest,
Hmm.
look, unfortunately, unless someone tells you, the only way you're going to learn this is to get burned. And
Yep.
unfortunately, I've been burned. The people that I know have been burned with these stocks, and um, it's an important one for young people to know.
Hmm. Well, I think if you're interested in the space, you have to experience that burn at least once.
And it's, well, you'll never forget it.
Hmm.
Let's put it that way.